Hello Cowboys Nation, welcome to another video, and without further ado, let's get to another round of news from America's team. Cowboys Jerry Jones just unloaded a brutal new criticism on Trevon Diggs. It feels like ages ago that Dallas Cowboys cornerback Trevon Diggs set the NFL ablaze with a league-leading 11 interceptions, including 2 pick sixes, in his second season. Diggs played well the following year, and he looked like an All-Pro to start 2023 before he tore his ACL in practice ahead of Week 3. It's been all downhill from there. He returned to play in 11 games last year, but another knee injury cut his season short. That brings us to 2025, which has set the stage for an ugly divorce between Diggs and the Cowboys. The long-standing tension is making headlines yet again after the 27-year-old claimed to be healthy enough to play in Sunday's loss to the Minnesota Vikings. Appearing on 105.3 The Fan on Tuesday, Jerry Jones, who has insisted that Diggs isn't healthy, was asked about why the former All-Pro didn't suit up and responded with a new criticism. Jerry Jones today on at 105.3 The Fan said that players always want to return fast. With Trevon Diggs, he said his play style requires a certain level of health. Jones had criticized Micah Parsons in the past for going against the scheme to make a play. Obviously, a player of Parsons' caliber should be allowed to do that. Diggs, however, is a much more volatile player. His breakout 2022 season was clearly an outlier as far as interceptions and making plays on the ball. In fact, he's only managed 6 pass breakups on 668 coverage snaps the last 3 years, per Pro Football Focus. For context, he compiled 31 pass breakups over his first 3 seasons. Granted, that was a much bigger sample size, 1,751 coverage snaps, per PFF, but there is a significant downward trend here that coincides with Diggs' ACL injury. He's lost a lot of explosion and closing speed that helped him become an elite ball hawk. At this point in his career, Diggs would be better served playing in structure. He doesn't have a pass defended this year, and his last pass breakup came in Week 14 of last season. More importantly, he is allowing a whopping 19.6 yards per reception and 154.9 passer rating when targeted. Does that sound like someone who should be freestyling to create a splash play? Of course, all of this is moot if Diggs isn't activated off injured reserve before Saturday. If he isn't, he will revert to season-ending IR, and you can all but guarantee that the Cowboys will move on in some capacity after the season. This relationship has clearly run its course, and it's bound to get uglier once the breakup becomes official and Diggs is free to tell his side of the story. Cowboys urged to steal top defensive coordinator to replace Matt Eberflus. The Cowboys' defense has been the subject of a roller coaster ride here in 2025, going back to the early season when, after the stunning trade of Micah Parsons, the team was facing a real talent void and appeared unable to stop anybody. They got some players back from injury, though, and, of course, then made another surprise blockbuster, adding Jets All-Pro defensive lineman Quinnen Williams. Since then, there were 3 games of improvement, followed by the last 2 games, both losses, in which Dallas reverted to its earlier form, allowing 44 points to the Lions and 34 points to the Vikings. The losses in those games cost the Cowboys their late-year push into the postseason, which does not look like it will materialize, after all. In the meantime, defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus, who was public enemy number 1 back in October when the Cowboys' defense was so sieve-like, is back as the team's lead discussion topic. Eberflus is in his first year as defensive coordinator, but team owner Jerry Jones has indicated this could be his last. Cowboys fans would welcome that news, even though it means that the team would be looking for its 4th coordinator in as many years after dumping Mike Zimmer last year and losing Dan Quinn to the Commanders the previous year. But that might not be the worst thing, because one of the most respected coordinators in the game could soon be on the market, and Dallas might well be an ideal fit for him, current Browns defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz. The 3-11 Browns are awful, and Schwartz had a mostly awful stint as the head coach of the Lions, 29-51, but he can coach defense. The Browns are currently the number 2 rated defense at Pro Football Focus, and were 8th last year. They were number 6 in 2023. With the Browns coaching staff possibly on the firing line if there is a second straight 3-14 finish, Schwartz could be available. As the Blogging the Boys analysis site writes, stealing Schwartz away from the Browns would be as close to a home run as the Cowboys could get. Given Schwartz's reputation in Cleveland, the Browns might be reluctant to let Schwartz leave. But if there is a coaching change at the top, Schwartz might want out, and with the influx of talent plus a quality offense, the Cowboys would be an ideal landing spot. Cowboys urged to pursue projected $40 million free agent running back. The Dallas Cowboys have no money to spend right now. The key words they're being right now because they're currently projected to be approximately $36.5 million over the salary cap in 2026. There's little doubt once the off-season hits, the Cowboys are going to start shedding salaries in rapid fashion to get back to even ground. With a defense that should be much improved in 2026 thanks to some late-season additions in 2025, and hopefully with a new defensive coordinator, the Cowboys could still give their offense a boost with one key signing. That signing should be New York Jets running back Breece Hall, who could be a dynamic playmaker and help make up for the absence of wide receiver George Pickens if he leaves in free agency. Hall has a projected market value of a 4-year, $41 million contract, according to Spotrac, which seems a bit high. The Cowboys could very well get Hall on a deal closer to a 3-year, $24 million contract which pays him $8 million per year. Breece Hall is one of the handful of gems set to hit the open market when the 2026 NFL offseason gets underway, Bleacher Report's Alex K. wrote on December 16. He has the potential to carry an offense, potentially transforming any team that lands him into a top-tier unit. Hall spent the last 4 years toiling away as one of the NFL's best running backs on arguably its worst team. The Jets have the longest playoff drought out of the 4 major professional sports leagues. In 4 seasons, Hall has 17 game averages of 1,586 yards of total offense and 8 touchdowns and done so despite missing 10 games his rookie season with a torn ACL suffered in Week 7. Through 14 games in 2025, Hall has 1,223 yards of total offense and 4 touchdowns and is on pace for the first 1,000-yard rushing season of his career.